call the Twilight Zone.
Steve Kerr, and you look at Steph and Clay, and even Draymond with his lack of performance.
He's in 2 in a row, 7 points for him. The twirling Doncic, melting into the defense. The front carry strikes. Swing, fly ball, well hit left center. Robert Acuna has homer. Rookie rushing record for the Steelers.
Look, he came into this game averaging 3.67 yards per carry. 42nd out of 49 qualified rushers.
Freeze to begin the third quarter. It has been incredible. Here he comes again. Oh, goodness. And the Greek basketball god. And he was a great guy that teaches the
Rally Town fam, good evening. Welcome to the show. We've got a great one in store for you tonight. We're going to be talking, obviously, divisional rounds. We've got the conference rounds coming up. But as always, gentlemen, how goes it?
It's going well, Bobby. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So last week was interesting. We had two people who were perfect on the picks, in Todd and Aaron. And me and Corey were 3-1. We took some flyers.
Yeah.
So I think for the most part, last week ended up the way that the majority of us thought it was going to be. This week, however, is going to be interesting based off of some things that happened last week.
Nick and Brian, thanks for liking the stream, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple comments rolling in here. Scott says Purdy wins the Super Bowl as Mr. Irrelevant. Shows you how to build a team, an offense around your QB. What a novel. That would be a good story, especially if it ends up working out that way. They got a tough matchup this weekend, though. We'll definitely get into it here in a little bit. Tommy, thanks for swinging through. But first and foremost, let's talk about these games last week. Where am I at here?
Divisional round, baby.
Divisional round. Okay. It was a good weekend of football.
Yeah, it was.
How we're well, let's start with the locks that we had last week. We'll start on our locks of the week. How did those go?
I prefer we didn't.
I think we were all over. I know mine didn't hit.
Corey's hit.
My lock of the week was Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts, both over 50 rushing yards. That game obviously didn't go the way that we thought.
You know what? I respect the hell out of that, though, Bob. You put a parlay out there for your lock of the week. That takes cojones. That's all I'm saying. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a much safer lock this week.
Yeah, I bet you do.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I got some crazy parlays out there this week, too. But my lock of the week's pretty solid. All right, well, let's talk about it. Let's go ahead and lead off. Eagles-Giants. Todd, what were your thoughts?
I think it went kind of how I expected it was going to go. I mean, we had the conversation last week that this Giants team wasn't – I mean, they played the Vikings before. We talked about the Vikings being one of the most overrated teams in the NFL, the luckiest team in the NFL, rather. And, the Giants took care of business in the wild card round, but met a healthy Philadelphia Eagles. And
yes.
Their foot immediately pedal to the metal and did not take their foot off the gas for the entire game. 38-7 final, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, shellacking.
Offense rolled. Secondary of Philadelphia looked healthy. But shout out to Brian Dable for taking a franchise that people laughed at last year and laughed at really going into this season and turning it into a playoff team. I think that's the biggest accolade to me on the coaching side for this season is Brian Dable's ability to turn the team around.
I think that's exactly right, Todd. Sorry, Bobby. I think that, I mean, if you're a Giants fan, you're happy with the way that this season
You have to be.
I mean, going into this season, if I told you you're going to win a playoff game, you would have signed up for that, I think, as a Giants fan. Having a top 5 pick and then going to, seeing what you saw. You've got the coach. Whether or not you've got the quarterback, I'm not there yet on that either. But at the same time, Daniel Jones doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of things going on around him other than Saquon Barkley. I think that defense came on a little bit at the end of the year, but overall, I think you're happy with the trajectory of the team, Aaron. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a team that we thought wasn't going to be in the playoffs at the start of the year, let alone have maybe even a 500 record. So, I think Daboll definitely showed why he is in that coach of the year conversation. Although I don't think he's going to get it. It's certainly a valiant effort, but he brought that roster up all season. And like you said, sure, Giants fans would have signed up for that. But when you're in it, it's hard to go back to that state of mind, right? Because you're like, all right, just one more. Let's keep winning. So they looked bad in this game as opposed to how they did against the Vikings, but they still have a lot to build on. And I think on the other side of the ball, what you saw was, I think, a team that in the Eagles that showed why they were, the bona fide number one for the whole season until Jalen Hurts gets injured. And we didn't really, we saw in week 18 that Jalen Hurts was back, but it just wasn't really the same. Him getting an extra week of rest on the bye week. That's why you play Jalen Hurts to win that game, to get that bye week. They just looked like a team on an entirely different level, and it leads to an incredible, game that's going to come up here on Sunday. But I don't know. I think the Eagles have a legitimate shot to not only represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, but win it outright.
Yeah, for sure. Eagles, they looked to be in just the perfect form, headed into this, last portion of the season, which is not good for, every other team that's in the playoffs right now. With the way that the Eagles play, they look great. Well, I mean, that being said, Corey rolls his eyes as I say that.
Well, there's another team that looked pretty good.
There's another team that looked pretty.
Yeah, we're not there
pretty
yet.
Fucking
yeah,
good
we're not
last
there
week.
yet.
We're not there yet, though. We're not there yet.
We're not there
It
yet.
wasn't a slight.
No, it's not. No. No, the eye roll was more so for Bobby. Like, other teams got to really be no shit. They got to be worried about the Eagles. They're in the fucking NFC Championship game. No, there are no teams taking anyone like. Well, yeah, we got this one. There's no one looking ahead to the Super Bowl.
They look to be 100% healthy in rolling. That's kind of what I'm getting at, because you've got, we'll get to the Chiefs-Bengals game here in a bit, but you've got other teams that are, somewhat hobbling.
We've seen it happen before. Teams that have a great, amazing regular seasons, and then the injury bug bites them at the end. And it's not any fault of the team. It's just unfortunate luck and timing. You want those injuries at the beginning of the year. And Corey, I know exactly the team you were referring to when you said there's other teams that are also rolling. And I think what you're seeing is between the Eagles and the Bengals, I'm seeing a team that has played the best at the highest level most consistently throughout the year in the Eagles. And I'm also seeing a team in the Bengals that is playing your best football at the most opportune time of the season. It's like the hot goalie in like the NHL playoffs.
And we'll get we'll get to
the
AFC side of things, but just to stick with the NFC side and kind of get back to the injury aspect that you talked about, the big question was Jalen Hurts, right? Didn't look spectacular in week 18. Got the bye week, obviously, and then going into this divisional round, I'd say looked probably about 85 to 90%. I think that's about where he's at, and that's better than what the Giants had to offer. And I think what we really saw here, not so much on the AFC side, but more on the NFC side, was a bit of attrition. I think we saw I thought the NFC was much more top heavy coming into this season in general. Did I necessarily think it was going to be the 49ers and Eagles? Kind of. I thought the Rams would be in there. Obviously, there was my preseason call for the NFC Championship game. The Eagles were the other team. But nonetheless, I thought that the NFC was going to be a little bit more top heavy. I think we did see that a little bit. The Cowboys, obviously, a little bit of a surprise, leading into that game that they were where they were. I didn't necessarily think that the Cowboys would be a touchdown away from going to the NFC Championship game. But they hung in there for most of that game. That defense played great. I think both teams held under 25, if I'm not mistaken. What was the final on that one? 19-12. I mean, it was a slugfest, right? Holding San Francisco to 19 points, hell of a job from that Cowboys defense, to be honest with you. I'm quick to dog on the Cowboys, as I called them losing to the Buccaneers in the first round. Proved me pretty wrong, and they put up a fight. A really good fight, actually, against the 49ers. But I think that 49ers defense, obviously holding them to 12 points, is an even bigger statement as to what it really takes to get to this level of the playoffs. And that is the other side of the ball picking you up when one side isn't doing what you're used to them doing, right? When the offense isn't putting up 24 plus, the defense can carry you. And that's what we saw, I think, out of the 49ers, Todd. Is that kind of what you got out of that?
Yeah, so I think the big thing when I am watching that game was, Dallas's foundation, and obviously I'm going to get into it, but Tony Pollard's injury played really an integral part to Dallas's offense stalling out, right? Because the foundation of Dallas's offense in its entirety is the tandem in the backfield between Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, and you take one of those people out of the equation, and that's a completely different backfield. And fellas, I don't know how you feel about Ezekiel Elliott getting into the season. Obviously, I think kind of a bounce back year coming off of injury last year. I think he was double digits in touchdowns, but I don't know if he's built to be a 25 carry back anymore. I think that you get to a position where he is now with Tony Pollard, where you kind of have the complementary attack, and your mindset is different going into a game. And I think you saw that with Zeke too. I mean, that nobody on Dallas had more than, I think everybody had less than 30 yards on the ground. And, I've said it a bunch of times that Dak Prescott's a volume thrower, and he also needs the breathing room to make some mistakes over the air, and 2 interceptions in a 19-12 game is integral in them losing that game. Right. I mean, a couple turnovers, not capitalizing on a turnover from Ray McLeod, and that really just cost them the ball game.
And the Cowboys social media team agrees with you, Todd. They think that was pretty integral. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the Cowboys tweeted out, Dak Prescott gave the ball away 2 times. Basically, we lost because we couldn't take care of the ball is essentially what they said on Twitter.
Because the first interception, they were 2/3 of the way down the field.
Oh, God.
And I mean, sucks for Brett Maher, but obviously you're not trusting your kicker at this point after kind of the things that have transpired 2 weeks prior. So yeah, you take more risks, and I think you watch Dak get a little too risky against a defense that's just equipped for any situation. And I can't say that I'm shocked that San Francisco beat Dallas. And I think another part of this game that we talked about that kind of came to fruition is that Brock Purdy met a defense that was going to challenge him. And I don't want to say he rose to the occasion, but I mean, he kept them in the game. He had an average game at best, right? No touchdowns.
He's a Kyle Shanahan quarterback.
Yards. Yeah, which is fun, right? And when you have guys like Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, and now Elijah Mitchell back at 100%,
Brandon Ayuk,
for the most part. I mean, the amount of specialty weapons that you have alleviates the pressure that Brock Purdy kind of gets presented with that offense, because say you go into this game against Philadelphia, and obviously Philadelphia's secondary is one that creates a lot of turnovers, and Brock Purdy gets into a scenario where he makes one bad pass, you can completely change the trajectory of that offense and get kind of crafty with it and make some adjustments. And I think we watched them do that against Dallas too. But I think that for the media, that's quickly turned into now all of a sudden Brock Purdy's going to be this guy that takes the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. I don't believe that. I'm not saying that I don't think that the 49ers can make it to the Super Bowl, and win the Super Bowl, but I don't think it's Brock Purdy that wins you that Super Bowl, right?
But we've been kind of saying, when does the shoe drop, right? Like Aaron, I think, said that last week, like when we're waiting for that other shoe to drop and to see that rookie come out, that 7th round draft pick come out. And it hasn't. Like you said earlier, he consistently puts his team in a position to win the football game, which in that Kyle Shanahan offense is all you are really asked to do.
Well, right. And it's kind of simple, right? The commitment that Brock Purdy has to make to this offense is manage the clock and don't try to force anything that's not there.
Yeah.
Right. Insert George Kittle having a bounce back second half. When in doubt, throw to the tight end that has sure hands. And that's exactly what he's done when he gets into a situation where he can't find an open target, or, Purdy's just mobile enough, or he is mobile enough that he can get 4 or 5 yards and extend a play for a couple of seconds. So you're right. I don't want to discredit him, because obviously, it's a rookie quarterback taking his team to the NFC Championship. That's a pretty fucking special thing to say that you've done. right? Because we just talked about it matters in the second half what you're able to do. And, he's been the leader for them throughout the end of the second half of the season for the most part. So I think the big thing for me, fellas, my takeaway from this game is Dallas just didn't have the stones to get to the end zone at the end of the game. And a lot of that just has to do with play calling and decision-making.
Yeah,
right?
I will say I was really disappointed with Dalton Schultz on that last drive. Just from the effort standpoint, he had two really bad mistakes. He got pushed backwards out of bounds, and then he didn't drag the foot on that catch. When your team's trying to make a drive down the field to get the Hail Mary, and this guy's out here half-assing it. I was disappointed. I like Dalton Schultz. I was just really sad about the effort that he put out on that last drive.
I get that. Did he score both their touchdowns? Or no?
I think he had one.
No, did he have one? I
thought he had one.
I was gonna say I thought he had one.
They only scored one touchdown.
Oh, did they? I'm sorry. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, he had their lone touchdown catch. But it kind of goes back to like my Javi Baez like run it out type deal in the World Series. It's like your team's playing for everything at this moment, and you're not executing. Like that's for me that was like my biggest takeaway from that game. I know it was late, but and he probably didn't think they had a chance, but you still got to try. Aaron, do you have any closing thoughts on the Cowboys 49ers?
I was thinking about something while we were discussing the two games, and I'm curious. I'm curious what you guys would think. So you're a fan of either the Giants or the Cowboys, right? Your team is going to lose a playoff game. Let's say you just know that. Which way would you rather lose? Like how the Giants did or how the Cowboys did? Would you rather get blown out early and know that you're kind of have time to stew in it? Or would you rather be in the game the whole time and have your heart ripped out at the end? I
think I'd rather lose like the Giants.
I think I would too.
Well, so I think that at least when you lose like that, there's something to build off of, right? If you get your ass beat in a playoff game with a team that you didn't expect to get there, right? Because really Dallas was kind of on the fence too going into the year.
Sure.
Well, not according to ESPN. I mean,
right.
Dallas Cowboys.
NFC East champions. But I think the big thing is that you look at what the Giants did throughout the course of the season and kind of the gradual build up to getting into the playoffs is different than Dallas, who it's it's hard to compare the teams because Dallas is expected to be here, right? There's two things that at least in our lifetime that I've experienced with the Cowboys. They're always expected to win by mainstream media, and they always disappoint you either at the end of the season or in the playoffs. That's the only thing I've known my whole life of watching the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of to Aaron's question, like if I already know I'm losing, like you said, like I would rather get beat by the number.
You don't know you're losing, but like I'm saying in this hypothetical, obviously the only option is
if you're going to lose, would you rather
if I'm going to lose, and like I would rather be. I guess part of my answer as to why I would rather be the Giants than the Cowboys right now. I would rather be on the upswing than continuously just above average or just like lower tier good. You know what I mean? Like, because then you're fucked. You're in that purgatory, and we'll get to there's a team that people are saying, which I don't believe, for what it's worth. There's a team like that in the AFC now. And we'll get to that here as we shift over to that side. But I would much rather lose like the Giants. You're getting beat by what has been called the best team in the league all year. They had the best record. And he got beat soundly, but you're proud of what that team accomplished.
Yeah, for sure.
In this season. So I guess would I rather lose like the Giants? I don't know, but I would rather be the Giants right now than the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's a hard question. I think if it were two rebuilding teams, that's maybe that's a more fluid question to answer, but I don't think Dallas is a team that's Corey's kind of said it, but it's the pendulum that never quite balances itself out in Dallas, right? Because it's the all in, everybody's here, and then the losing, and it's one of the biggest bandwagon fan bases in professional sports. I mean,
I feel like they probably have a pretty committed base no matter where, but at the end of the day, I just think that the Giants have a lot more to be excited about.
There's more to build on
moving forward. And furthermore, I think Giants fans got over that loss quicker than Cowboys fans.
for sure.
I can see that. I mean, me personally, I honestly, I'd rather lose the close one. You know, I want my team to be fighting and in it the entire time. You know, I want them to represent and show them what we've been about, or at least how I feel. That what they're about. And the Cowboys had a lot of opportunities, to get that game tied up, and they just couldn't get it done in typical Cowboys fashion. But
three times to win, and they were 0 for 3 on it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you're frustrated. You know, for the loyal fans out there, I know we talk about bandwagons all the time. There are some diehard Cowboy fans out there, and you're ready for some change. I think that starts with Jerry Jones no longer in control of that team. So good luck to that.
Well, he'll be owning, but yeah, I think they need a GM for sure. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right.
That's 30 years in the making at this point.
Yeah.
And a quick question for Cowboys fans, those diehard Cowboys fans. Just a quick question: how do you sleep at night? That's all. Moving on.
I'll ask Justin at work tomorrow. He's a diehard Cowboys fan.
Justin, how do you sleep at night?
All right.
With my 5 Lombardis under my head. Shut up. Fuck up.
All right. All right. Moving on. NFC covered. Let's shift gears and head over to the AFC. We had the Jags against the Chiefs, in what was a pretty close game in the first half, and then you just see Kansas City kind of assert their dominance and take it the rest of the way in the second half. Mahommes went down. We had backup quarter. I'm spacing right. Chad Henne.
Yeah.
I almost said Kerry Collins.
Which let's give a shout out to Chad Henne just for still being in the league.
Just cashing checks, dude.
What is this? This has got to be like year 15 or 16.
He went from the greatest job in football.
I'm taking the over on that.
To the worst job in football. It was backing up Patrick Mahommes, a guy who you will never start over, is the best job in football. It's the best. You're on the active roster. You're getting a higher salary than you would if you were on the practice squad, but you're never going to see game.
You're not getting hit in practice.
And then he gets hurt. And then you're like, oh, now I have to play for Patrick Mahommes. And now the bar is so high it could never be reached. It is just the worst job in football. But he did a good job, actually. I think he did a good job.
He motored down the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
really
you saw
nothing
Andy
wrong.
Reid on the sideline just blowing dust off of the old Alex Smith playbook, and he's like, "Chad, you think you can read these?
You know what Chad Henne did?
What language is this?"
I'm a Michigan man. I can read.
He just hit Kelsey and Watson the whole time down the field. That's really all he did.
He did fine.
It's perfect. That's what that offense is.
Here's the
built
thing:
around.
what did he do in 2020 when Mahommes went out against the Browns?
He just
and then
threw
he
the ball
came
to
in and this
Travis
game. It was
Kelce.
just like pretty. He was fine.
Yeah, and you know what? The Jaguars still can't cover tight ends.
Yeah,
still can't do it.
No.
Just refuse to cover Travis Kelce. And obviously, I took a flyer on the Jaguars when Mahomes got hurt. The first thing I sent to you guys was no. Get back to good, Mahomes. I want you in the AFC Championship is what I had said to the guys basically. And but when he got hurt, I was like, oh shit! Like the door has been cracked open for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
You can do this now. You're in this game. Aaron, I think you said this game just got really interesting.
yeah, sure.
Shout out also to Patrick Mahommes. Like, the C words are not a team that I'm going to be happy with this week, obviously, but I really respect the grit and the just tenaciousness that he showed on the sideline. They're just like, fuck no, I'm not going to the fucking locker room. I'm fucking playing.
Yep.
And then they're like, Patrick, you're a $500 million asset. You're taking your little ass to the locker room.
They just said, give me one drive. That's it.
We spent
drive.
Well, he spent the rest of the half on the sideline.
Right.
I think it was 2 drives, but
Obviously,
Chad
there's
Henne
the
then
best
drives
one.
it 93 yards down the field.
But yeah, they're basically just like, hey, Pat, we need an X-ray to make sure you can't make this worse by going out there and playing.
Right.
Because you're worth $500 million to us.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the biggest thing for me in that scenario is obviously I understand who Patrick Mahommes is as an athlete, right? I respect who he is as an athlete. That dude is an absolute true 1% competitor. I don't know if there's a lot of guys that play. I mean, obviously guys in professional sports have kind of that next level that they get to be who they are. But to watch a guy get injured, come back in, and then manage the clock through the rest of the game. And here's the thing, he wasn't doing anything crazy flashy, right? I mean, he didn't do anything. I think that he was
that jump pass off the left foot was pretty sexy.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that he does that to extend almost every drive now. He's doing something unique that you're like, there's no way he can make this happen, and somehow it happens.
Yeah.
And I respect what he is as a competitor. That's what that kind of got me to, that interaction on the sideline where he's like, fuck you, you're not taking me off this field. And to see, like, I mean, you could see like the real emotional passion behind that. And you're like, that's a guy, like, no wonder that guy, people want to play with that guy.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
That was the big thing for me, because I've always kind of not necessarily doubted it, but like I've just always been kind of weary of what he is off the field. Right. I've just, because
all stories indicate that dude just pounds Coors Lights. I mean, that's all.
Right.
Like he's still in his lower 20s. He's still getting after it.
After that game, or like, on Monday, I listened to In the Heights with Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce, and the Pat Mahommes interview. And, they were talking, it was filmed several weeks ago. It was obviously before the game, but they were just asking, Jason Kelce just asked Patrick, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do outside of football? And he's like, nothing, man.
No, that's not what he says. Nothing, man.
He just said nothing. He's like, nothing. I just think about football most of the time. That's like, what a fucking animal. And Travis Kelce was like, cool, man. And
so I mean, just on the Jags, real quick note about the Jags. I mean, that pass rush was getting after him. They were on Patrick Mahommes from the first snap, and they were flushing him out, which is also where Patrick Mahommes is kind of at his best, is in that creation mode. Which, we'll get to that, and what that means for this week here in a bit. But I don't know, Dan. They got after him pretty quickly, and they just continue to leave Travis Kelce open. The big story, obviously, is Patrick Mahomes' ankle moving forward into the championship round. Full participant today in practice. Absolute freak specimen in terms of body healing. Their kicker had a high ankle sprain, and he was out for 6 weeks. If that's any bit of a measuring stick there for you, a more normal body specimen, a kicker versus an NFL quarterback. But no, I mean, we got what we expected. I knew I took a flyer on the Jags on that one. But
here's the thing. They were one fumble away from that being a tie ball game, though.
Sure. And that was a fumble. It wasn't a complete pass. It wasn't an incomplete pass. It wasn't. He did not mean to throw that football.
You're saying Mahommes?
When Mahommes came, he did not mean to throw it. He didn't. His arm is slowing down as he is coming over the top, and the ball comes out. Yes, his arm is moving forward, and the ball came out. Technically, that is an incomplete pass. I understand that by the rules, that is an incomplete pass. I get that. If there were some way to get Elon Musk's little brain chip in there to understand what the thought process was of Patrick Mahomes,
that'd be next level.
He was trying to tuck that ball. He was not trying to let go of that ball. So that's why in at least our group chat, I was like, that's a fumble. Like he did not want to let go of that football. No way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So I'm speaking on Jamal Agnew fumbling at the 2-yard line, right on a kind of a controversial fumble, right? Because I think we debated it even in our group chat a little bit on, did he actually ever have possession of the ball?
I didn't think he did.
You watch it 5 or 6 different ways. I could see in the world of, hey, there's not enough here to overturn it, so we're going to keep it this fumble. I see that there, but I think you kind of you dissect it. You see what the actions were with his hands and his feet simultaneously. I agree. I think it's an incomplete pass, but realistically, that's you're 2 plays after that away from that being a tie ball game, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're kind of the last 6 minutes after that get a little bit different. right? Because it's sprained ankle. Pat Mahommes taking the ball down the field, and it's doing it with your hands.
I mean, they still scored a touchdown after that.
They did, right? But what I'm saying is that it's not. It's a different scenario of a ball game. I think the momentum's different, right? Because it's pretty simple that when a turnover happens, the wind gets taken out of the sails of a defense that spent a lot of time really doing exactly what they wanted to. And we talked about the Kelce thing. I said if they put Devin Lloyd on Travis Kelce, he'll have a field day. And who covered Travis Kelce 90% of the time? Devin Lloyd. Like, don't do that to a rookie who is underperformed for the second half of the season. Don't put the best tight end in football on him. And
they're wide receiver one. That's what he is. That's what he is for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Devin Lloyd looked absolutely lost, as he should, because Travis Kelce runs some of the cleaner routes of anybody in the NFL. So,
yeah, I mean, Mahommes is just lucky that it was just a high ankle sprain. I mean, we saw basically the same exact injury, type to Tony Pollard, and Tony Pollard breaks his fibula. That was literally like kind of the same.
That's
same way, like it gets wrapped underneath, and it just looks gross. It looks bad. And
he's on that TB12, bro. He drinks a lot of water.
Yeah,
just avocado enemas,
Coors Lights,
coffee,
and Coors Lights, bro.
I heard they help build up bone density. All right, Aaron, did you have any final thoughts on the Chiefs-Jags?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the injury played just such a huge factor in it. It's hard to judge the Chiefs going into this week because I just don't know what version of Pat Mahommes am I going to get on Sunday. Yep. So I think that'll certainly be the takeaway from this game because, Mahommes looked fine. He certainly didn't look like the magician that we're used to seeing on a football field, which, in my opinion, makes him beatable. Or more beatable, I should say. I think the Chiefs are, again, just an admirable team to represent potentially for the Super Bowl. I think, and I know we still have another game to cover, but I'm really excited for this weekend because I truly believe this is the right Final Four of football teams. A lot of years you get, a team that sneaks in and good for them, but it's kind of like, all right, the clock's going to strike midnight for Cinderella here. Great story, but you guys really didn't have a chance. And I can think of a few examples, but that happens, not every year, but a lot of years. And I'm happy that these are the four teams that are going to be representing on both sides, just because, I think that you can give me any outcome of AFC, NFC, any combination. And I'm really excited about that Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've got four great teams left. Obviously the last game to cover from the divisional weekend, Bengals Bills. Obviously we had a much anticipated matchup towards the end of the regular season. We all know how that went. This was kind of the rematch in a game that, the scoreboard didn't actually, in my opinion, represent how dominant this game was controlled by the Bengals. It wasn't that large of a spread in the score, but man, the Bengals were in control from the first snap to the last snap. And honestly, I was impressed. I was impressed with how well the Bengals controlled that game, especially defensively. It didn't seem like Josh Allen ever felt comfortable in that game. And Bengals defense, coming into this weekend against the Chiefs, they're looking like they're ready for the challenge. So I'm interested to see what Corey and Todd have to say about all this.
I mean, the first words, impressed. I mean, I was, there's so many times, even still, I know we went to the Super Bowl last year, but as a Bengals fan, there's just been so many moments that have been too big for this team, and they continuously now under this new regime, the Taylor Burrow era, have shown us that that's not them anymore. And they really rose up, and I think they got a Bills team that really just expected to walk out of there with a W. I think they fully expected to be in Atlanta next week. I think stealing a little bit of words here from my lovely co-host Aaron, and say they went in with a capital C in confidence, and absolutely got their mouths clocked right from the start. And I think, the defense, 10 points. You held that Bills offense to 10 points. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. And I don't want him to go anywhere because I think he is one of the key aspects to this franchise right now. But the fact that Lou Anarumo is not getting any head coaching interviews is mind-blowing to me. Thank you, rest of the NFL, for being stupid, because what he's not going to do is take a lateral move. He's been in the AFC Championship 2 years in a row. I think he's going to leave this organization to go be a DC somewhere else. It's not going to happen. But I think that defense, as you said, Bobby, continues to roll. Joe Burrow is playing at another level right now, to the point now that they're talking it's Mahommes and Burrow and then everybody else on national media outlets. I still think Mahommes deserves that number one slot. He's a champion. Burrow is not. He's an MVP. Burrow is not. He's been in 5 straight AFC Championship games. Burrow has not. So those are different, right? We have to respect that. I think it's only fair to give that accolade to Mahommes just based on the resume alone. But nonetheless, man, the way that offensive line performed, Todd, I mean, dude, Fairfield High School alumni Jackson Carman just burying people out there. I was so impressed by the way that Carman, as well as, I'm sorry, I'm blanking right now on who's filling in at Sharping. And Adeniji. The way that these guys just came off the bench and filled in. Yeah. Burrow was sacked once. And I know the Bills defensive line, we weren't expecting them. They're not the Ravens defensive line.
Right.
As we said last week, the best defense in the AFC had already been eliminated. And that was the Ravens.
Yeah.
And now I think it's the Bengals. The Bengals are right there. I think they have a better defense than the Chiefs. We'll get that in a bit. But it's I was so impressed by the way that they kept Burrow clean. The offense moved, and it all started right there in the trenches on both sides, I think.
Yeah, so I think the big takeaway for me from this game is the running game.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
Mixon, 15 for 107 and a touchdown?
Yeah, 17 for 105. Bengals had 172 yards on the ground. The Bills had 60, roughly 65. And in a weather game like that, you have to be able to run the football. It's kind of how you get the short ball out and set up the offense to be able to move the ball over the air. Buffalo wasn't able to do that. Cincinnati was able to do that hand over fist for the entire game. I think there was one point in time where Corey in our group chat said, "Get back to running the football."
Yes,
right. There was the one drive where they went 3 and out. It looked
3
kind of
straight
funny.
Passes.
Yeah, it looked funny. The Bills were prepared for everything that the Bengals did. The next drive they come out, Mixon gets a first down on the first carry that he has, and they're back to rolling. That's the big thing, fellas. I think for me, and I don't want to sound too harsh here, but there was never a point in time after the first 2 minutes of that game where I ever thought Buffalo was going to get back into it.
You know what? I was still pretty like dialed in, like gotta get a stop. There was when Josh Allen scored the touchdown, I think it made it a 14-7 game at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Then the Bengals kick a field goal. It's 17-7. It was a game. It was a game at that point still, because we've seen it so many times, especially the Bengals as of a couple of those games coming down the stretch of the regular season. They didn't play well in the second half for a long time, and the playoffs last year, most of the season, regular season this year, the Bengals were a second half team. They were a team that started slow, but then just came out and absolutely shut you down defensively, and then offensively they just went to town on you. But that wasn't the case in some of those games. So I was still bated breath when they got that 3 and out to start the second half, and then went down and scored. It was like, all right, well, it's ours to lose at this point.
I just saw it's hard being a fan that you felt a lot of disappointment, right? Because it's easy to get back into that mentality. It's the first, I can tell you, it's the first time in all year, including last year, where I watched them for 2 minutes. And I even said to Mary verbally out loud, I said, they're going to win this game by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. It was kind of like the Jets game, to be honest. Like when they started the Jets game earlier this season, it was the first time that you really saw that offense clicking.
Yeah.
And then when you see that, you're just like, oh fuck. Well, and that's the thing is like, and we'll talk about this when we're predicting the game. If Burrow gets time, and we said this last week, that Skylar Thompson had 3 whatever seconds to throw the football. If you give that to Burrow, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. He'll make Trenton Irwin look like he should be your slot receiver.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's insane. He's a practice squad guy. So it's thank you, San Francisco, by the way. It's just insane. Absolutely insane the way they played. I don't want to spend too much time on it. We got a lot of more important things to talk about later tonight.
I think we should talk about Buffalo a little bit, right?
Fair enough.
Well, I got the Bengals from this game, so I talk about them a little bit.
The crazy thing about the game was there was only one team that looked like they were playing in the elements, and it's the team that was supposed to be built to do so. And that's the part that was craziest to me is the Bills have this, home field advantage of if you want to play playoff football in Buffalo in January, well, good luck. Obviously, Cincinnati isn't exactly a warm weather place either.
I'm looking at snow at my window.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'm not trying to say that, but it was surprising to me because if all I did was look at the box score, I would not have thought that it was a weather affected game.
Right.
And when you take a look at what the Bengals were able to do on it, you already talked about the running game. And for the Bills, I wonder, Corey was just alluding to, we have Mahommes and we have Burrow, and I think everyone is okay in saying it that way, is now what happens to somebody like Josh Allen that everybody had up there. And then do you now put him in a tier with, that second tier, or I guess third, if we're going to put Mahommes in his own, which maybe still might be the case for me. But yeah, I think Burrow deserves to be in that second spot. But now what do we do with Buffalo here? Did they miss the window? You know what I mean? Are they still, that's the thing I keep coming back to is it's very, very hard to win in this league. Obviously Josh Allen is on his new contract. You gave a lot of money to Von Miller, who, that didn't really pay off for you in terms of your ultimate goal.
Sure.
And I kind of wonder where this puts them. They're a really, really good team that just might not have enough to get there. This is probably a little too reactionary, but there was just something about the Bills after the second half of the season all year that felt off to me, even though they were still winning. It was just unimpressive in doing it.
Yeah. I
think that really showed out here this past week.
Yeah. So looking back at Buffalo throughout this entire season, a lot of the foundation of their offense was made off of the boom or bust, right? These big plays, these long touchdowns, and then kind of just seeing through the rest of the game, right? I think back to the Steelers game where they're up 14-0 in 2 minutes. You're like, oh, this game's over. And somehow Pittsburgh just hung around with them kind of till the very end, right? And I think that was kind of the MO of Buffalo for most of the year is that, obviously, guys like Gabe Davis have, the boom weeks, right, where they go out and go for 100+ and a couple touchdowns. And you have Stephon Diggs, who is a true wide receiver 1, top 10 talent in the position. But then that's kind of it.
Well,
right?
and how do you put teams away, Todd? The run game.
That's where I'm alluding to is that when you have a true number 1 wide receiver and then a big play wide receiver and then Dawson Knox and then your running game, right? So I had to go through, 3 different types of players to get to a running back, and we don't even know who gets the majority of the carries varies game to game. It's Josh Allen most of the time.
Yeah, he's the leading rusher, I believe, up until week 16 or something.
Yeah, and then it was and Devin Singletary barely scaled him out. And don't get me wrong, Singletary and Joe Mixon had very similar year-end statistics, right, in terms of total rushing yards, attempts, things of that nature. Injuries are not, but if you're Buffalo, that has to be a priority going into next year, because in this game, if you build a foundation of running the football, I don't think it changes much, but it at least gives you something to fall back on when, I think Cincinnati did a really good job of taking away the big play opportunities. And now people got burned a couple of times, and there was some great hurry up defense that came from that, right? I'm thinking of Cam Taylor-Britt a couple of times in that game, but if Josh Allen doesn't have that right now, this offense stalls just stalls out. So it just can't be that way. It can't work that way for them. So I think the big thing for me is I'm looking at Buffalo moving forward. I think a little bit of offensive line help. You could say that for pretty much.
I think that's their focus. That's exactly where I was going to go, Todd, is offense. I think they have the right personnel in the running back room to make it work.
But they're losing one.
Right. Well, that's fine. But they have people there to make it work. Like, to me, running backs, who the running back is not a huge deal to me. Like, if you're a running back in the NFL, you can produce. And I feel like it happens if you have a good offensive line that open up these opportunities for the running backs. Like, there are no teams that win a Super Bowl with the leading rusher. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, so but it helps to have somebody that you can fall back on. They don't have that right now, or they haven't. Maybe
I think they do. Is what I'm saying.
Established it.
Exactly, and the reason for that is not because of who the running back is. It's because they have a bad offensive line. The Bills have a bad offensive line. It's just a fact, and that's why Josh Allen is getting hit in the arm consistently. That's why they're not able to establish the run. It's because they don't have that. They don't have those guys that can establish that for them. That's where it all starts. I think in the NFL, again, if you're an NFL scout, and if NFL scouts say that this running, if you're a prospective running back, and NFL scouts say this guy has the juice to get beat to play in the NFL, I think you can be productive. Will you be the leading rusher? That's not what I'm saying. You can be productive. You can get 3-4 yards a carry with an effective offensive line. The Bills don't have that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another thing too, and I've seen a lot of flack on Leslie Frazier for how that game was called defensively. And I just kind of want to reference that there's not much that you can do if you're not putting pressure on Joe Burrow to get the ball out in less than 3 seconds. There really isn't. And they didn't have any backup plan to that. And obviously their secondary is kind of scrapped out at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that played a big factor into it.
No care Elam. I didn't see him anywhere.
He was I don't know.
I didn't hear his name once.
No. And, and in a scenario where Buffalo's in, where, you have an all-pro like Matt Milano, who's having to spend a lot of time pressuring the quarterback because you're just trying to get Burrow to get rid of you're trying to slow down the play speed up the play to get the ball out sooner or have him hold on to the ball. You're taking away the middle of the field when you take Matt Milano out of the equation. So, I don't necessarily think it's a Leslie Frazier problem. I think it's just when you go down quick and you're looking at an offense that fires on all cylinders, there's not really a lot of answers, and there's not a lot of re-strategizing that you can do when you just don't have the assets available to do it. Right. I mean, sometimes you just get out rostered. And I think this was an example of where you look at two sides of the ball and they were out rostered.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Bengals obviously, clear front runner in that game, start to finish. And it was still a good game to watch. I just think maybe there's some more to that Josh Allen elbow injury. Maybe he didn't fully recover. I don't know. He just didn't look right in that back half of the season, like Aaron had mentioned. Just didn't look crisp, and I'm thinking maybe it's a lingering injury or something's just maybe he just needs to get his head on straight. I think
that's fair to question. I mean, we knew he was injured throughout the season. It didn't seem to, slow him down. Or I remember when that injury happened, the Bills were rolling, and the question was, you just shut him down for a little bit because you shouldn't lose your playoff spot by doing so. By going with what I think they have Case Keenum as their backup, but. Yeah, man, we'll see what the Bills look like next year. I still think they're probably the best team in that division. I don't think there's any reason why they're not going to be a playoff contender for the next couple of years, but they're, it's weird how it seems like they're a couple pieces away when a lot of people at the beginning of the season wanted to put this team in the Super Bowl, which I don't think it was a terrible pick by any means. I think the Bills had a phenomenal year, but of course, when the expectations, are where they are, anything below that is going to feel short.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you guys ready to get into this week's games?
Oh, let's do it, baby. All right. It's championship week.
All right. Well, we'll start with the 3:00 game on Sunday. We have the San Francisco 49ers headed on the road to take on the Eagles. It's going to be a good football game. I think this game's going to go a lot differently than people think. I think this is going to be an extremely defensive game. I really do.
I mean, you got two of the best two defenses
I would
in the
expect
league.
it. Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see a lot of points in this game. I mean, we're going to see points. I would hammer the under on this game. I think the over under was like 47.5.
Okay.
I would hit the under on that. That's not my lock of the week. But if you're betting it, that's what I would do.
I did.
Um,
all the lines moved very quickly this week.
Yes.
I believe it's at 46 now.
Yep, that's right, 46.
All right, Aaron, lead us off. Eagles, Niners. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it. Recapping those games last week. I just think the Eagles are playing at a different level from the eye test perspective. I think they're amazing along both trenches, which is very, very important when it comes to sustained playoff success. Jalen Hurts, I think, answered a lot of questions last week, although did not look 100%. Certainly looked a lot closer to the Jalen Hurts that was rolling during this regular season, off to what a lot of people thought was going to be an MVP season. Injuries obviously aren't going to help in that situation. The 49ers, on the other hand, are playing some of the best defense in the league as well. Brock Purdy has, done more than enough to put this team in a great position. Hats off to Kyle Shanahan for constantly having guys ready and able to step up in situations like that. I'm going with the Eagles, though, by a hair. I think I just kind of think they're on a destiny march here where they're popping off the screens to me again in the eye test, but I just think they're playing better football right now.
Absolutely. Corey.
Yeah, this is going to be a great football game. I think you've probably two of the most complete rosters in the NFL when you're looking at both of these teams. Very, very good defense. The Eagles lead the league in sacks as a team, and the 49ers have a game record in Bosa. When I'm looking at these offenses, loaded. The Eagles, due to their offensive line, kind of what I was alluding to earlier, in that it's not necessarily the personnel, it's more the offensive line that established the rushing game. And I think you saw that a little bit against the Giants, whether it was Gainwell, whether it was Sanders, or whether it was the giant killer, Mr. Boston, coming in there and scoring a tutty.
11 tutties against the Giants.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Definitely cash on that one.
Insane.
Yeah. Shout out to Aaron for laying that bet down. But a great rushing attack. Obviously, Devontae and AJ Brown can stretch it out for him. Dallas Goedert, I think, he had a really good game against the Giants as well. And then you flip the coin and you look at the 49ers, and you got George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and a solid offensive line as well. And
Right.
and it's really comes down to me is to the quarterback. And one of these quarterbacks is an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
And it's not Brock Purdy. One of these quarterbacks is a rookie, and it's not Jalen Hurts. One of these quarterbacks is going into the most hostile environment for a road team, and it's not Jalen Hurts.
Right.
I think what is really setting the tone for this line is that they're playing at the link.
Yeah.
We have long, first of all, let me preface this. Shout out to the Philly fans because they're dedicated. They're dedicated fans. They love their teams. They live and die for their teams. They're horrible humans. They're absolutely trash human beings, and they fucking hate. They're just rude as hell. They're just dickheads. But they love their team and great, like a great sports town. Nonetheless, you're a piece of shit, but you're a great sports town. So I hope you take that backhanded compliment the right way, Philly. I resonate with the way that you carry yourselves to an extent, but it's going to be hostile. It's going to be very loud, and I think, Aaron, nice crack. This is where the other shoe falls. I think we see it. I think the Eagles. For Purdy, and I think the Eagles cover here. It's a 2.5 point spread, but this, ladies and gentlemen, is where you'll get my lock of the week. I am on a bit of a streak here. Last week I had you with the Bengals plus 5.5. Easy fucking money there, laddie. But this week I've got you at George Kittle over 3.5 receptions. The Eagles, as I said, lead the league in sacks. They are going to be putting pressure on Purdy, so he's going to be looking for those opportunities over the middle to get the ball into sure hands. Kittle, McCaffrey. McCaffrey's another one I considered on this one. But what I did is I looked at George Kittle's receptions over the last 5 games. He is averaging 4.2 receptions. He covered over 3.5 in 4 out of his last 5 games. George Kittle over 3.5 receptions is my lock of the week. And I am taking the Eagles in this one to move on to their second Super Bowl in 5 years.
Heck yeah. Todd.
Yeah, I think Corey said it right. I try to go down the line of how I can kind of go through and pick this game, right? You have 2 very even talent and coaching, right, between Sirianni and Shanahan. These are 2 of the top tier of coaching in the NFL now. Offensive lines are almost chalk to me in terms of quality. Defense, chalk to me in terms of quality. It just comes down to quarterback play, and and Corey's right. I'm taking the MVP candidate over the rookie in general. I don't care where he fucking got drafted. I'm taking an MVP candidate over a rookie quarterback. I think another thing to just consider, right, going into this game and looking at, what is San Francisco going to do to slow down Philadelphia, and what's Philadelphia going to do to counter that? I see Philly running the ball quite a bit at the beginning of this game to try to get something moving and take time off the clock, because I think that's going to be kind of their recipe here against a Fred Warner, Bosa, Armstead, Greenlaw defense. Is you got to keep them on the field, and you got to get them worn down a little bit. And I don't know if Nick Bosa has an off switch. I don't think I've seen that yet with him in the NFL, but you got to pull out all the stops here. And Sirianni and Steichen are just smart enough as a coaching staff to figure it out. And I think that's how the Eagles squeak this one out by 3, covering the spread.
Alrighty. My lock of the week is also not in this game, it's in the next one. Sorry, JK.
I forgot mine. Mine is in this one. I forgot to mention.
All right, go ahead.
For doing it. So I have 2 for this one. If we have to make an official one, I'm actually going to lock in on the under for Quez Watkins receiving yards. He is the backup tight end there in Philadelphia, and had a pretty solid center part of the season when Goddard was facing some injuries. When Goddard's actually out there, that's the only tight end they're targeting. Quez Watkins, I believe, in his last 5 games, his receiving yards average per game is just 5.5. And that partially the reason why I'm locked in on this one. Finally, also, I think we got to get some unders in there. It can't all just be, sunshine and daisies. So
Corey, you're muted.
Yeah, Corey, you're muted.
He's all hyped up over there.
I was clearing my throat, and that's why I was. But no, they're not as fun. That's why they're just nobody's
they're
like.
They're not as fun. But it's about winning some money. So
it is about, and I'm with you on this one. I've already bet the.
What's
under
the line on it?
15.5.
Oh, okay.
The other one that I am on is Devontae Smith. I played this one earlier in the week. I'm going over 5.5 receptions in the game. I watched every minute of that Eagles Giants game, and you could just tell that AJ Brown kind of had a little bit of a lingering leg issue going on. The bomb that Hurts threw to him, you saw him, rubbing it, and you constantly saw him doing that all game. This is more so a pick in that regard, where I think Devontae Smith, who was clearly a big part of that offensive game plan in the last game, I think that's going to continue here, partially due to injury. So I'm locked in on the 5.5 over on that as well.
So we got Devonta Smith over 5.5. What was the other lock of the week, Aaron?
We have was it Quez Watkins under 15.5 receiving yards.
And those are Aaron's locks of the week. We got a comment in here, Bobby, that I want to get to because I got the answer for him.
Yeah, we'll hit it and then I'll make my pick. Is it true? Is there an on-site jail at Philadelphia's football stadium?
So, Brian, thank you for the comment. If you guys are just joining into the stream here, go ahead and drop your questions and comments into the chat. And we'll get to them as soon as we can. But the Philadelphia Eagles originally had a jail in Veterans Stadium. It was built in there to deal with, of course, beyond rowdy fans that were either too drunk or too violent at their sporting events. As I said earlier in the stream, Philly fans. When Lincoln Financial was built, it was also built with a holding cell like its predecessor had installed, but has since been shuttered. So, yes, there is, but it is not currently in use, Brian. Thanks for the comment there, buddy.
If that just doesn't speak to Philadelphia sports fans, I don't know. I don't know how you can say it any more eloquently than
they have a drunk tank.
Jail.
They have a drunk tank. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm sure you guys have seen the TikToks, right, or any reel, whatever, of people just going and interviewing Eagles fans tailgating. The most recent one that I've seen is they follow this guy who I believe was wearing a Jason Kelce jersey from the beginning of the tailgate to game time for this last game. He puked 3 times before they even went into the stadium.
Jesus.
And then, look, we've all puked in rally. There's no way. It's happened, right? But
sure,
that's
me more than most. But Aaron, I think drunk Browns fan gives him a bit of a run for his money. Then
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Oh, the guy that was at the Bengals game doing waivers, right?
Just doing this.
Yeah.
And he usually takes his shirt off.
That's just power, man. If you're in Cleveland, Philly, New York, like anywhere in the Meadowlands, Foxborough, Buffalo. If you're up in those and you're at Lambeau, obviously, it used to be Minnesota before they came little pussies and decided to build a dome. But you shirt off at the game, absolute fucking power move, dude.
100%. All right, back to my pick.
Sorry, Bobby.
It's okay. The matchup that I'm really excited to watch in this game is Lane Johnson versus Nick Bosa.
Yes, keep talking.
This is gonna be the key to this game. Is Nick Bosa gonna be able to take advantage? Lane Johnson, one of the best tackles in the league. Lane Johnson healthy. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a great one to watch.
He made Kayvon Thibodeau look like a rookie last week.
He did.
Yeah,
Lane Johnson.
Lane
Johnson is that guy.
Right.
If you fuck around, he will let you find out.
Well, and if he's not going up, if Bosa's not going up against him, he's going up against Jordan Mailata, right? Who is also a top 5 in his position.
Yeah.
So expect a lot of stunts and a lot of trickery from the San Francisco defense to do whatever they can to try to get to Hurts this week. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I guess I have a lock in this game. I have a lock in the other game. Brock Purdy to throw an interception. Yes.
Ooh.
Brock Purdy will.
Wouldn't that be his first game? Wouldn't that be his first one?
Yeah.
So he's due.
He's due. Brock Purdy will throw a pick in this game. That is one of my locks.
Like
watch it just be a fucking garbage.
What are the odds on that? What's
cover.
the juice on that?
It's probably minus 110.
If he hasn't thrown one, it's got to be a plus, right?
It wasn't. It was minus, I think, 105.
Yeah.
All right.
That's typical for half an interception. It's pretty standard. It's a pretty standard juice line. You're giving up 10 cents on that one, but it's
actually pretty good. That's not bad.
Yeah, I tell you guys, I'm gonna keep a ledger next year, and I'll keep the world informed on our TikTok, which go ahead and follow us on TikTok. I will keep the world informed on how that's going. I'm gonna bet overs on interceptions and double down on every fucking quarterback next year and see how it goes.
Yep. So I got the Eagles here. I think.
Are we all riding with the fucking Birds?
I think the Purdy train ends in Philly. I think we finally start to see some of those rookie mistakes. Against this defense. This is the best all around defense that he will have gone up against. Hats off to him last week, going up against the Cowboys and Micah Parsons. But I just think this Philly defense is just too tough.
So can I just say that going into this show tonight, I did prep, and part of my prep is to listen to podcasts for each team. So I listened to obviously the Bengals. I listened to the C words, the Kansas City football team. I listened to the Eagles, and I listened to the Niners. And I gotta say, man, no surprise, the most arrogant, far and above, the most they didn't even recognize other teams that are left in the NFL. The Eagles. It is not even close, dude. They're just like, I mean, we're just the shit, man. I don't know what the fuck could tell you, but we're the shit, man. I don't know. We're the shit. I don't know. And I mean, rightfully so. Best record, number 1 seed. I understand it, but there's all 4 of these fucking teams that are left are elite. They are elite.
No, they're great.
And as Aaron said earlier in the podcast, these are the 4 best teams in the NFL. This isn't 2017 where we got the Eagles going into fucking Minneapolis playing what's his fuck over there at who filled in for Kirk Cousins there? Case Keenum playing Case Keenum in the NFC Championship game. This is not fucking happening. So
no, we got a great weekend of football. And I think this game is the evening game for a reason. I think this is at least for me, this is the more anticipated game to watch. I think this could go either way. Got the Bengals headed back to Arrowhead for the second straight year to take on the Chiefs. On their pursuit to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is crazy. It is the exact same matchup in the exact same place 2 years in a row. You've got Burrow and Mahommes. Mahommes, who has obviously been on the wrong side of the last few matchups against the Bengals. Coming in with the ankle injury. We'll see how much that impacts him on Sunday. I'll go ahead and lead off because I'm sure Corey and Todd will have quite a bit to talk about on this one. This is where my original lock of the week is. It is Samaj P. Ryan over 3.5 receptions. The last couple times that they have met, I went back and looked at the history of their games versus P. Ryan's production in the last 5 or 6. And every time they've played a competitive defense where they've got to move and chuck the ball, he's caught at least 5 each game.
One thing to note about that, and that's great for the first 2 matchups. One thing to note about the matchup this year, Joe Mixon was out. He didn't play at all. So that inflated. But I think your previous 2 definitely support that. And I think since Mixon has been hurt, he's absolutely been more inserted into that offense.
Yeah. No, I like the, and even, I think he's been a vital, part to giving Mixon a break. And he's been utilized a lot on 3rd down, which is most of the time, short passing situations. So I think this is an easy lock for the week.
Is that an underrated 1-2 punch in terms of running back combination in the NFL?
For sure. Obviously it's not as stout as, Cleveland per se.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it's not Chubb and Hunt. I get that.
I think it's a respectable combination. I think Mixon, he's not the best back in the league by any stretch of the imagination. He's a good number 1 to have. And P. Ryan's a solid number 2. I'd say you have above average 1 and 2 backs in Cincinnati. I wouldn't really say that either of them are like elite, but I think they're above average, and with the offensive line there.
Would you say Mixon's top 10 in the league?
Yeah, like I said, they're above average, just not elite. Elite for me is like top 5.
Okay, top 7. Would you say Mixon's top 7 in the league?
No, I was questioning it at 10. I like Mixon. I have to go through the list, but I'd have to break it down.
I'm comfortable with that, by the way. I'm very comfortable with that. By the way,
I would say he's arguably top 10.
Because I also don't think that having the best back in the league means you're not going to win a Super Bowl. In my opinion, I don't know. I don't know why, but that just seemingly happens all the time. I'm just curious, Chad, if you got time in your head, look it up. When's the last time that the leading rusher won a Super Bowl? It just doesn't.
Davis with the Broncos.
Oh, so 98 was it? Yeah,
honestly, I don't know. I know we say that all the time.
It's crazy.
I don't think it's
Sean Alexander. Did he get?
They didn't win. No,
they didn't win the Super Bowl.
They went in 2004, but they didn't win.
I don't
What
think
about
it's not
Jamal Lewis?
important. I just don't think there's the
was waiting
correlation
last year.
between running back success and team winning. I
Yeah.
think that's fair to say, but I still think I don't think it hinders you having a good running back.
Financially.
No. Yeah, well, sure, you're talking about paying a running back. I'm talking about having a good running back. You know what I mean?
I think having a good running game is much more important. I think actually having a short to intermediate passing game can supplement your
Well,
running
yeah,
game.
it's an extension
Sure.
of that. A lot
Exactly,
of teams use
yeah.
that as an extension.
The Bengals use that.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms
absolutely.
of the way the NFL is moving, you're seeing a lot of this running back by committee, or at least these like duos. You've got a good duo up in Detroit. Obviously, Cleveland's done it. You've seen Kansas City do it with McKinnon and Pacheco.
Yes.
So I mean, you're seeing a lot of these teams, go to these because the running back position is a brutal position to play. And it's very volatile, on week to week on who's going to be on the field, because they're all taking hits. So I think it's going to be good for longevity, at that position, having two running backs, on the roster that can get it done for you. But back to my pick, man. This is going to be, my biggest concern for Cincinnati is who's going to guard Travis Kelce. I know that they've done a nice job shutting him down the last couple of times that they've met, holding him to I believe I think less than 50 yards in each of those games receiving.
So my lock of the week comes with Travis Kelce. So
Okay.
I'll get there.
All right. Me personally, God, this is tough. Because this is where I'm at, guys. Burrow has gotten the best of Mahommes, and Mahommes he's got to be due at some point.
I mean, but
right?
kind of, but not like Burrow hasn't gotten the best of Mahomes because they're not on the field at the same time.
I
I
understand.
know we put this quarterback versus quarterback, but that's like this is Burrow versus the Chiefs defense, and then Mahomes versus the
Corey,
Bengals.
you'll have your moment.
I'm
I
just
promise.
saying. I know, but that narrative is pushed a lot.
Yeah, it's pushed a lot
Because it's sexy. I get
it's
it.
sexy and it's
Yeah,
you
like
literally
you.
took the words out of my mouth. Oh, I mean, if fat is sexy, then I'm the sexiest bitch on the planet. Man,
Bobby.
I'm gonna go with my heart and not my head, and I'm gonna take the Bengals this week.
Wow, that's your heart from a Steelers fan.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, then I gotta take this from. They're starting to do that here in Cleveland. There's Browns fans that are like, yeah, I mean, we like Joe Burrow. Listen, guys, I'm not rooting for you. I have respect for you. I think the Bengals are playing
Totally get it.
top brand football right now. And similar to what I was just saying about the Eagles, I'm taking the Bengals this week too. I just think they're playing some of the best football in the league, and I want to be right on my picks. I don't want them to win. I'd happily be wrong, but we're not doing this. Oh, they're in Ohio. I can't do it. I can't do it.
No, let me
And
speak
Bobby,
to that.
I can't have you do it either because we're in the same division. You can't root for a division opponent. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, Bobby grew up in Cincinnati, so it's a little different. Little different. But let me say this.
In like the fan handbook.
I would the only time that I would be like, you know what, it would be cool if the Browns won the Super Bowl is if the Bengals had already
As if I was
won
like
one.
dying on my deathbed.
No. As if the
I
Bengals
just want them
had already
won.
if the Bengals don't win a Super Bowl and I'm down in hell watching the Browns go to a Super Bowl, I'm rooting for the NFC the whole time.
Exactly.
If the Bengals have won a Super Bowl and maybe they're in a rebuild and the Browns make it to the Super Bowl, yeah, you know what? Go ahead,
you
Cleveland.
want to get the first
So
one.
let me kind of let me kind of
Let's do it.
explain why I said my heart and not my head. Okay,
Please.
so I'm a Steelers fan, and I want nothing more on Sundays when we're playing each other to beat the fucking Bengals, and I want the Steelers to win. Same thing with the Browns, same thing with the Ravens. I want the Steelers to win every matchup. My team had a good showing this year. They're obviously not in it. As far as my heart's concerned, I know that, the Chiefs have been there number one. And I feel like there's a lot of bandwagon Chiefs fans that I know. And I'm just not a huge fan of that, number one. But number two, I know what this means to people in my life that are important to see the Bengals win a championship. And I would be so happy to see them happy And that's why I'm rooting for the Bengals, and that's why I said with my heart and not my head.
But here's the thing: Bobby has one. Okay, misery
six
loves
of them,
company.
actually.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Misery loves company.
6 of them.
I can't be having people in my life who know
I've
how
seen
shitty
2
it
of them,
is.
so.
Yeah, I can't have it. Just can't have it.
Aaron's like, I can't be the last one.
I can't be the last one. So,
Well, you already are the last one to go to a Super Bowl. So,
well, sure. Thanks, dude.
I mean, you're dogging everybody. That's facts, bro.
Facts, bro. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Still got 2016 with the
Can't be
Cavs.
over there.
He's got it.
And not take the heat.
But
no, it's all good. It's all good. It's all
no,
right.
I know. And this is just that's but this is how fans are, right?
Yeah.
Like I so I was curious when Bobby said that because that was a point I was going to make, so I had to just touch on that. I apologize for stepping on what you were saying.
Oh,
but
no, you're fine.
there is definitely this rising notion in Cleveland I keep hearing of people that are like, we're going to root for the Bengals. And I'm like, well, you can burn in hell then because you're not a Browns fan.
I would
You get that. I know.
I
But there's
resonate with
no-
that logic. At the same time, welcome. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Like, I
Right.
you
No,
know,
no, I get it. I get it.
yeah, like,
Well, there's
I-
also part, and I've told you too. So we're having a Super Bowl party, and Mary is doing foods based on the cities that win. So at this point, I'm sorry, our first love was we wanted Buffalo because who doesn't want wings? Just from a
Wings,
food
yeah.
perspective.
Yeah,
Just from
yeah,
a food perspective.
sure.
Philly
And now we want
cheesesteak?
Kansas City, guys. I'm sorry, that's barbecue.
Yeah, you want barbecue, dude.
We want
You want some
barbecue and
brisket?
Philly cheesesteaks.
Yeah, dude. Totally. I totally get that. I totally like. What are you gonna fucking have in San Francisco? Like, what the fuck are you gonna eat? Come on.
Vegan hot
Chinese
dogs.
food.
Cool. Yeah, but come on, ribs.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean,
Well, you can still do ribs. We can get some
Cheesesteaks?
beef spare ribs going. Yeah,
I mean,
cheesesteaks though.
come on.
Cheesesteaks and ribs.
Widow it out. What are you getting?
Also, everyone love yourself. Take the day
She's
off
lit.
after. Just do it. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got the Bengals as well.
All right. Corey, Todd, I don't know if you guys just want to go back and forth or how
So-
you guys want to do it.
I'd
Go,
like to
Todd.
start if that's okay. So
Yes.
you,
Yeah. After you, madam.
Thank
Or,
you.
sir. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
so
just-
close, so close, Corey.
So
He's so hot. It just
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Bobby asked the question of who's going to cover Travis Kelce. And ladies and gentlemen, this is my first lock of the week coming here.
what? Let's hear it. What
lock
is
of
it?
the week is Travis Kelce under 77.5 yards receiving.
Ooh,
I love it.
tempting.
So Travis Kelce averages 64.8 yards per game against the Bengals and has 2 total touchdowns over their last 5 games. He has only had over 77.5 twice, one time on 8 receptions, the other time on 11 receptions on 18 targets. The recipe to slowing down Travis Kelce, because I don't think you stop him, you slow him down, is that the Bengals have 2 of the better covering linebackers in the NFL, and Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson. And then they also have a nickelback by the name of Mike Hilton, who can
You're
also
welcome.
assist. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Dude,
Thanks for-
that guy's a
thanks for that.
fucking dog.
I
monster.
fucking miss
The
Mike
monster.
Hilton so much.
God
He's a
damn.
monster.
Dude.
Those guys can slow him down. Those guys can. I mean, I watched Logan Wilson twice. Slow down. I'm not in a position to double down that much, but I'm willing to put a little bit of that free FanDuel money on it. But I think
That's
I
how
think
confident I am.
Yeah, I'm just using the resources I have
I
available.
get it.
Dude,
Um,
Mystery, I need you to explain this comment. Rooting for the rotten, lying, and scared kitty crowd. I need you to explain that. There's a lot in there. I want you to explain that in the chat.
Yeah.
And also, Jaden, welcome back, buddy. Jaden grew up a Chiefs fan, pretty much. Then it has kind of morphed into the Bengals living in Cincinnati. So, Jaden, welcome back to the show. Thanks for liking the stream. Todd, sorry to cut you off, but had to
Right.
give a shout out to a long-time listener.
So yeah, so I think there's your answer to who covers Travis Kelce. I not as passionately as Corey alluded to it, but I am through with the narrative of the Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahommes thing, because I think that's your headline, but that's not the thing that exists for 60 minutes on the football field. What does happen for 60 minutes on the football field is Joe Burrow is facing a Chiefs defense that isn't really entirely too much different from last year, other than a couple of rookies taking the place of a couple of vets from last year, right? You have Karlaftis as an edge rusher who's kind of come on at the end of the season, and then McDuffie and Bolton, and that's kind of it. So no farms either.
Here's the thing, though. You guys keep saying it's not Mahomes versus Burrow on the field. Sure, that's factually accurate and correct. But what have we been doing this entire week? We're talking about, are these the two best quarterbacks in the league? Sure, it might not be them versus them for 60 minutes, but in the grand scheme of football, if the Bengals win this game, what's this conversation going to be after the game? That's why it's Mahomes versus Burrow, because we're talking about potentially the two best quarterbacks in the league. And certainly right now, it's hard to argue against that. So, yeah, obviously Mahomes isn't back in coverage trying to pick Burrow off and read his eyes, but I think it's more of a grand scheme of thing why this game is so important.
Yeah, it's the headline, but it's not the game. That's my point.
Sure, 100%. Yeah.
So I think that kind of what's going on in Kansas City isn't anything different than what Joe Burrow has seen 3 times in the last 14 months, 15 months. I don't think much is going to change from their game plan that we've seen over the last 10 weeks. I'm not going to go back through it all over again. It's an interesting comment.
Yeah.
Is not true. And I'd love to hear. So the comment is, the fans are just the worst, and you most of all should know that the team and the coach are trashy. So I need at least 3 examples from the last 5 years of that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Mystery is a Chiefs fan. Or C words, the Kansas City football team.
That's fine. That's fine.
No. So I welcome the rivalry, because that's what this is. It's almost like a divisional matchup at this point. Sure. We've seen they've played each other twice for the last 2 seasons. It is very clear that these are the 2 best teams in the conference. I think that we're all willing to accept that at this point, because it's a rematch. And so, yeah, there's a little bit heated, but I don't understand how the fans are the worst. I don't understand. I was there in Kansas City last year as a Bengals fan, and my biggest takeaway, one, beautiful stadium, lots of good honoring of players past there at Arrowhead, and Chiefs fans couldn't have been more cordial. I think that Kansas City and Cincinnati are almost identical cities. They are both on a river. They both love their sports teams, which they have 2 of, baseball and football, well, and soccer now with Sporting KC and FC Cincinnati, soccer teams as well. They both love their food, barbecue in KC and pork in Cincinnati, and then they have really good beer. They're very, 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 very similar franchises, and the entire time when I was in Kansas City, what I got was Chiefs fans cheering as loud as they could for their team, talking a little bit of smack. And what they got was me cheering for the Bengals, talking a little bit of smack, telling Big Red that he should have kicked the field goal right before halftime. Chiefs fans laughed. They had a good time with it. At halftime, when the cheerleaders were out on the field, I said, Where's Jackson Mahommes with the cheerleaders? They had a good laugh about it. They were able to laugh at themselves and enjoy their times. So, Mystery, I understand if you're a little fired up and everything, the Burrow head comments that came from Mike Kelton and stuff like that. I get it. There's a lot on the line. There's a lot of emotion that we put into these teams, and I understand you're a little bit fired up, but I think we're more alike than we are different in terms of fanhood. For a long time, the Chiefs were not a good franchise, and then they became one. Obviously, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahommes had a lot to do that. That front office did a great job. Bengals are the same way, and I think that there's a lot more that ties those 2 fan bases together, and I think we're going to be seeing each other for a long time. So we better get comfortable. We better get comfortable as going to this similar stadiums. I think for sure.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, for me and Aaron, we obviously want to see the Steelers and Browns respectively.
Well, Jaden's comment saying, Burrow and Mahomes is the next Manning and Brady, which is a fair comment to make at this point. But I'm just sitting here like, fuck, I really, really hope not, because that did not work out well for a lot of other teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mystery, just to give you your time here on the show, we appreciate you coming by. You've been a loyal listener and commenter and engaged in the chat. So, he says, trolling the local sports channels are 1. Lying about the health of Patrick Mahommes is 2, and fans bitching about seeding continuously. I'll edit that for you, but I don't know about trolling local sports channels.
Well, here's the big thing.
I don't know about any of that actually.
There was obviously a lot that went down. Obviously with the Bengals Bills game being the big pivot point for the playoffs this year with how the NFL had decided to handle that. As far as the Bengals, or Bengals fans complaining about seeding, I'm a Steelers fan, and I say the Bengals have every right to their opinion. If that's your team and you're in that situation, you're going to be just as frustrated. If that was my team, I would have been frustrated. But my big thing, the thing that I harped on was just, use it as fuel, and that's what the Bengals have done. And as far as the health of Patrick Mahommes, the dude almost broke his leg. We all saw it. It's the same thing that happened to Tony Pollard, except Tony Pollard actually broke his leg. So it's fair to speculate his health going into the game, considering he had a high ankle sprain and you don't recover from that in a week. I don't care who you are. He's gonna be feeling it to a point, but how much is it going to affect him? We don't know.
I think it's fair to speculate about his health and be curious about his health, or make questions about it, or whatever, comment on it, because it's a huge factor going into this game.
Absolutely.
It's a massive factor.
Yeah, the centerpiece of your offense having a potential injury that slows down their performance is absolutely the thing that's going to be the topic of conversation going into the AFC Championship.
No,
the person that gets you into the end zone, creates your offense, and makes all these elusive moves isn't able to do all three of those things efficiently.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a thing that you're going to talk about.
Well, and it could and could not matter, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about it leading up to this week. What happened last week? Everyone was talking about the Bengals offensive line leading into the game. And
Fair
if they
enough.
were going to lose, why would they lose? It's because of the offensive line.
Sure.
It was not a factor at all
Right.
in that
Yeah.
game. But of course, we're going to talk about that
Yes.
leading up
Right.
to it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I just think that I think the Bengals aren't going to sit here and think that Patrick Mahommes is going to be hobbled. You heard DJ Reader on multiple national platforms doing interviews this week saying that, yeah, we're game planning for Patrick Mahommes being 100%. So maybe it's noise on Twitter. It's the loudest are often not the majority. Mystery. The loudest people on social media are often not the majority. I think most Bengals fans are sitting here thinking, yeah, we're getting Patrick Mahommes, we're getting the Chiefs, and we're playing an Arrowhead. This is not a walk in the park. There is zero human beings, of course, in the Bengals front office, in the Bengals locker room, anyone that is just like, oh, just another game. No way. It's the Chiefs. Joe Burrow said it today. They are still the team to beat. They're the number one seed.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, thanks for liking the video. Yeah, I mean, it's Bishop, you're right. Speculation. But like Corey said, the loudest are more often than not the majority. So
they're traditionally the ones that
right.
feed into they're the ones that create this agenda, or the narrative, and get the most clicks. And those are the ones that have 250,000 views on Twitter. And then that's the thing that creates the majority opinion.
Here's the really crazy thing about Twitter, because I really wasn't on Twitter a ton until we started doing the podcast and getting into this, is that there is a lot of ignorance on Twitter. And with that, how somebody writes something is not exactly how they would say it. Tonality is everything. And, everybody, when you're reading a tweet, you read it how you would say it or how you interpret it. I think a lot of Twitter is misconstrued, when you get those controversial tweets. And
I think Eli Apple got in a little hot water for that this week.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So if I'm a player, I would never tweet ever, because you have to say it, like, 'cause tone is everything. Tone and how you say it. So.
In the words of Lil Wayne, real G's move in silence like lasagna. That is absolutely fucking true. Joe Burrow said it, I think, before last season. He absolutely said it, that stop posting these workout videos. Stop. Don't tell other people how hard you're working. Just work that hard.
Yeah.
Don't let your competition see how hard you're working. Just work that hard. And so I think that's kind of the mentality that he imposes, and I think that bleeds, at least it will, come game day through the team.
And mystery people calling it Burrowhead. You're just trying to get some fire, and
That was Mike Hilton actually. I did that first.
get the juices flowing. So there's nothing wrong with some good competition and some shit.
Yeah,
talking.
the NFL is built on
that's
people
what it's
talking
all
shit to
about.
each other.
Budding rivalry.
It's all love, dude, and I respect the hell out of the Chiefs and Patrick
Yeah, you have
Mahomes and
to.
Andy Reid, and I'd be stupid not to.
They've gone to 5 straight AFC Championship games.
Exactly.
I mean, how can you not?
Right.
Exactly. And I started off this broadcast by saying Mahomes is number one
The model
because of the
consistency.
resume.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl championship, the MVP, the 5 straight AFC championship games. They still the team to beat. And I think that is the narrative leading into this game for sure.
I will say I was surprised at the line. I thought the Bengals would be underdogs going in. But
So they were.
That's where the line started.
Yeah. It's moving though. I just want to let you know
it's coming back. I think it started to, as we've seen now, Mahommes take the practice field in full and, surprisingly not look too, limited at all. Again, we'll see how that looks on Sunday, but you're going to see the line come back.
So I got some statistics here, courtesy of sportsbettingdime.com. The line sitting right now at 1. The Bengals favored by 1 in what is relatively a pick'em. Interesting spreads here on where the money is being laid. 66% of the cash that is betting the spread is going on the Bengals. 71% of the cash that is going on the money line is going on the Chiefs. Now, what do I interpret from that? A lot of cash got thrown down when the Bengals were at +3. And that has since drawn closer as the line becomes closer. And what you're getting on a money line bet right now, -108 on both sides.
Yeah.
-108 on both.
Line.
It's a pick'em. This is a pick'em. And I expect that cash to grow closer both on the money line bets and on the spread bets as we get closer to Sunday. I expect that to be somewhere around a 60-40 split either way, depending on who's the favorite. The money line bets are obviously going to be more. You're not going to, give up a point, just take the money line if the juice is nearly the same. It's could not be more close of a matchup, in my opinion. I think we've seen that. We've seen that.
No, this is going to be great.
Last three games decided by 3 points. No, I'm mistaken in that. The first one, week 17 of last year, was about a 6-point victory, 4-point victory, something like that. But then 27-24 were the AFC Championship last year, and then week 10 of this year, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah.
Either way, it's going to be a good game. Do we want to talk awards? And
I don't think we made our picks yet.
Oh shit! Yeah, sorry. I assume you guys have the Bengals this week.
I got super derailed, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Didn't even
Todd,
I completely forgot.
No, I'm fine now. I'm picking the Bengals.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
last week.
Yeah, we all did, and I think the thing to really look at here is, again, can that offensive line of the Bengals continue to overperform? Because that's what they did last week. Obviously, the elements aren't going to be the same. You still have a game wrecker on the other side of that ball in Chris Jones. Odd stat about Chris Jones: he has never had a playoff sack. Ever.
Really?
Wow.
That's insane. That is insane because he is probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame one day. He's an all-pro, one of the best interior defensive linemen in football.
Yeah, he would be the best if Aaron Donald did not exist in today's game.
Yeah, exactly. And does not have a playoff sack. So that's interesting. And the thing that kind of comes to light here is he doesn't – I don't know if there's necessarily another guy near his level on that defensive line. And so what you can take Chris Jones out of a game. And I think that's what other teams have done, is try and take him out of the game. In terms of defensive scheme, as Todd mentioned, the Bengals have done a really good job of shutting down Travis Kelce. And when you shut down Travis Kelce, you feel a little bit better about Juju Smith-Schuster and McCole Hardman. You feel a little bit better about containing them in matchups. It's not there's no Tyreek Hill out there. The thing to watch is Pacheco and McKinnon. those are going to be the game makers, in my opinion, is the Kansas City Chiefs running game. What are the Bengals really good at on defense, Todd?
Shutting down the run.
They're shutting down the run. And that's why I think Bengals feel good about going into this. I think the defensive schemes that Lou Anarumo has drawn up for Patrick Mahommes have been effective. They've closed down the A-gap passing lanes, which are the interior passing lanes, where most teams try and rush Patrick Mahommes from the outside to try and keep him contained. And what he does is he just steps up and out and then creates. The Bengals have generated more interior pass rush, which has flushed him out and into the Trey Hendrickson, the Sam Hubbards, the Joseph Asais, et cetera, that the Bengals have been able to produce on the defensive line. I really like what Dax Hill, I really like what Cam Taylor-Britt have brought to the table as of late in that secondary, filling in for an injured Chidobe Awuzie. And obviously, the wild card on that defense is Mike Hilton, man. This guy is tackling running backs. He's tackling a guy twice his size in Josh Allen. He just makes plays. And I think that kind of wild card is huge.
Yeah, especially not having Trey Flowers, too, who kind of relieved some of that duty for him.
He's that monster back. That monster back. Trey Flowers is that mix between a safety and a linebacker, nowhere near the skill level of a Cam Chancellor, but similar in that regard of body build. Too big for a safety, too small for a linebacker. We play you up on the line a little bit more. Some bets that I like, not my locks of the week, but some bets that I like. I like the under here. I really do like the under. I think that this is going to be a very tightly contested game from teams that know each other. And when you have teams that know each other, what you get is low scores. So I am predicting a 23-21 victory for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I take the under. I would take the under on Joe Burrow passing yards at 277.5. Take the under on that. He has not covered that in 4 of the last 5 games. So I would take the under there. I take for a big defensive game and the Bengals to move on to their second straight Super Bowl.
All right. I dig it. I on my end, I'm loving the Hayden Hurst over 3.5 receptions. I think that's a really good bet. And then I also just like, and it's just because of the juice on it, that the Joe Burrow anytime touchdown score. He did that earlier this year against the Chiefs. He's got 22 red zone rushing attempts. I think it's a scenario where it's a playoff game. If you're on the goal line, you're going to tuck it and give Joe Burrow that ball because you're playing for the Super Bowl. You don't want to take the ball backwards. It's at plus 500. I'm going to put a little on that.
I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, do we want to take any more questions? We want to talk about the what do you call it? End of season awards.
So who's up for head coach of the year? I'm curious of that.
Hold on, give me a second. I have it all right.
It's Daboll, Peterson, Sirianni,
Kyle Shanahan,
and
McDermott.
So McDermott, Sirianni, Daboll, and who are the Shanahan
and Doug Peterson.
The 2 biggest ones for me are Daboll and Peterson. I think those are the 2 biggest ones for me. I think those
who you think should be.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think for the same reason Zach Taylor isn't in there. I don't think Kyle Shanahan should be in there.
I think Shanahan should be in there.
Sure.
To go on that long of a winning streak with the last draft pick in this year's draft, Purdy. You started with Trey Lance.
That didn't. He was only in there for a third.
You started the season with Trey Lance. You're ending it with Purdy, and there was a quarterback in the middle. I think that does say a lot about coaching.
Okay, I was more leaning on the streak aspect of it. I was going to say, well, the next longest streak in the NFL belongs to Zach Taylor, but you were just in the NFC Championship game. It's not like they had a weakened roster, and they also traded for one of the best running backs in the league. So I get that. I understand your logic. I'm not discounting that. I think it's more, especially Daboll. I think, in my opinion, that's the coach of the year is Brian Daboll. Because what the fuck do the Giants have on offense outside of Saquon Barkley? It's not Kenny Galladay. They traded Kadarius Toney. Was Sterling Shepard? Is that their best wide receiver?
Isaiah Hodgins, that's their best receiver right now. And he wasn't on the team till November.
I think there has been a dramatic shift. Slayton, yeah, but
I know, but you're right. No, he's doing a lot with a little.
Exactly, and I think that is so much more than what any of those other coaches have done, in my opinion.
I would say I think it's between two guys. I think it's Daboll and Peterson. I think those are your two front runners for Coach of the Year. Obviously, with Jacksonville going from worst to first, winning a playoff game, huge. So, I mean, really same story up in New York. So I could see it going either way between him, between Peterson and Daboll. I wouldn't be mad either way.
So, fun fact, Brian Daboll, if he does win, would be the first to win the Assistant Coach of the Year and Coach of the Year award.
Is he? What are the odds at? I'm curious if anybody has that. By the way, yeah, pull them up because I'm curious what the odds are. Because obviously that is a pretty clear indicator as to who's probably going to win. But I don't know. I feel like rookie head coaches get a lot more of a nod for that award than do coaches that have been to the NFC Championship now in his third time, or for Doug Peterson, he's already won a Super Bowl. So to be Coach of the Year again, it'd be kind of weird. I'm shocked that Pete Carroll's not on that list. I'm shocked that he's not a finalist. That's my snub.
Oh, Sirianni is the favorite at -175.
That's interesting to me.
And then it's Shanahan.
See, those are interesting to me because they have the two most loaded rosters in football. It's easy to coach a loaded roster. Let's just be clear about that. It's easy to do it. I think it's very easy to do it. I think what Andy Reid has done is more respectable than what Sirianni or Shanahan has done. Everyone has said the Chiefs got worse, and they're the number one seed in the AFC. I think what Andy Reid has done is bigger than what
5 straight AFC championships. I mean,
I think
that be eligible for Coach of the Year there.
I think that's bigger than what Sirianni or Shanahan did. I think that, in my opinion, if I had a vote, I would go Daboll. I think that out of those coaches, what he has done from a top 5 pick to winning a playoff game in your first year as head coach, it's huge.
Oh, for sure. Let's see here. Mystery says Daboll. Yeah, like I said, wouldn't be mad. Daboll had a hell of a year. Going into the season, we had them, not performing well at all, and these guys got into the playoffs and won a game and got to the divisional round. So
I'll be frank with you too. I think all of these guys are just, I think they're all deserved to be there. If you wanted to make the argument for Zach Taylor, I could sit here and listen to it. It always comes down to, okay, that's fair, but who are you taking out? Like I heard people making the argument that, Josh Allen is going to get snubbed this year, even though he has, basically the similar stats of, if not better than Lamar Jackson when he won, his MVP. And I'm like, okay, that's all well and good, but
look at Mahommes, look at Burrow,
look at the person that they're going against.
Yeah.
And let's, it's very easy to make the argument.
He's also second in the league in picks. Like
people did it all the time with Russell Wilson before the season. It was like, I can't believe Russell Wilson's never won an MVP. And I'm like, all right, go tell me the year that he actually had better stats, because he just didn't. Yeah. Anyways, long story short, I just don't lose sleep over these. You know what I mean? Like they're going to award it whoever they want. There's Stefanski won Coach of the Year 2 years ago. We're already talking about, is he going to be here after this next year? So they're almost meaningless.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a ambiguous, or not ambiguous, but just kind of like a irrelevant trophy to have on the shelf. Considering how quickly things can turn, especially when things get bad.
Wasn't it Avery Johnson who got fired after winning Coach of the Year? So he's like got fired right before the All-Star break in NBA, and he was like coaching.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
anyways,
that's crazy.
Quickly,
all right. Do we have anything else, gentlemen?
Just a quick note. Kurt Warner was the last player to have won an MVP and a Super Bowl in the same year.
Wow.
Doesn't happen often. So just putting that out there.
2002?
2001 when they
with the Rams?
beat the Patriots.
or no,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
this is on.
That'd have been 2001.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to mention is we were talking earlier about how I'm pretty excited about however the combination of this, comes out to be.
I agree.
But what's really cool is, I mean, if you get, Kansas City and Philadelphia, you got the Kelsey brothers in the Super Bowl. That's pretty cool.
That'd be
Bengals,
really cool.
49ers. Hey, there's some history there. I know you boys know about.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Even
Third time's the charm, huh?
Even if it's 49ers Chiefs, there's still some interesting.
There's history there. Yeah.
Well, there's history there. I mean, that's who Mahomes beat when
They beat.
He went to the Super Bowl, and of course, even going all the way back to the Montana days of him going from the 49ers to the Chiefs. So I'm excited to see what the combination is going to be. But what's cool is I'm not worried about it. I think we're going to be
Me either.
Yeah. Well, no, what I'm saying, and right, it's easier for me to say that because I don't have a rooting interest for this on Sunday. I think we're going to get treated to some fantastic football, and I think it's going to pave the way for just a remarkable Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We'll chat. We appreciate everybody coming in tonight. Appreciate all the love in the conversation. I'm glad we could get into all that. Enjoy the football this weekend. It's going to be some of the best that we've watched all season. And we'll come at you next week. We'll be doing some fun things with the podcast next week, obviously with the Super Bowl coming up here. And I think that's it.
Roll your laundry Saturday.
Yep.
Prep the crock pot. Don't do anything. Just fucking watch football Sunday. That's all you got to do.
Perfect.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.